Hello everyone, today I'm going to be showing you my SGI or Silicon Graphics O2 workstation from 1996. Now this workstation came out in 1996. They made it for a couple years up until about 2002 and updated it a bit too until they discontinued it and it was never replaced. It did replace the SGI Indie, which was another workstation, but this was a lower end workstation, and the case is actually pretty small of it. However, don't let the size fool you because this thing is heavy. Now, first off, I'm going to show you the front of it. On the front of the machine you have a CD drive. One of the common problems with these computers is the plastics, and so the CD drive front panel is missing. Up here are the volume up and down switch. Sorry about the lighting. This is the volume up and down switch on the front of the computer, and this is the power switch. Right over here is the power light and the reset switch. Sorry, like I said, the lighting's crap in this room and the camcorder's not that great, but anyways, let me show you the back of the system. A quick flashlight. Now I'm going to show you the back of the system. Up here is this parallel port. SCSI port. The SCSI port is your usual single connector SCSI port. Below is the parallel port. They used an odd connection type. Right there is VGA. This connector is normally like your normal VGA, but it's sync on green, so you'll have to have a sync on green monitor to use it. Above that is a special connector for stuff like the dual head adapter or the LCD adapter, which you don't need if you're not using an SGI LCD. This is the Ethernet port. Below it are two serial ports, and of course there are your normal PS2 ports. This thing uses normal PC ports unlike many SGIs. Right over here is your power supply. Up here is a PCI slot. Yes, it's a PCI slot, but it's on a riser. And right here are your hard drive and video card. Well, actually, capture cards, sorry. But all these things come out easily with just the pop of the drive and pull. On the side here, you've got your AV in and out ports, so you can actually use this computer as a capture card. The card can pop out, so if your computer doesn't have these ports, you can just easily put them in without having to do anything. Normal SCSI hard drive pulled out of an old dead server. It's from 2007. Which I popped in here because I had to take the original 4 gig hard drive out, 146 gigs, 10k RPM, and it's single connector SCSI. So I could put this hard drive in a newer computer if I wanted to. But of course I only have a few SCSI drives, so I thought I might as well throw the one I have in here that's big because I plan on using this for video capture if I can ever get that thing to work, because sadly I think this thing has RAM issues. Well, it doesn't have that much. It also comes out with a single pull. However, before you pull the motherboard, just thought I'd let you know, pull the power from the computer or else you'll screw up the motherboard and you'll have to get a new one. And trust me, these things aren't cheap, especially if you break the motherboard. You can't just throw in a normal ATX motherboard. So anyways, board out, which as you can see is clearly marked remove power cord before installing system module. You can see the RAM, which is ECC RAM, a custom type of RAM though, because it's SGI. You can see there's this RAM, there's that heatsink for the MIPS R10000 CPU clocked at 175 megahertz, and beneath it you can see the chipset, which is covered in a heatsink, and some of the other components too. Now you can barely see it probably because of the horrible lighting, but there's a Dallas block which has the time, similar to how many older computers had that. There's also a jumper there. Now, most of these were used for businesses in 3D, and they had a password. To change the password of this computer, you have to go into the Dallas block, pull the jumper right next to it, and place it over here. Right next to the RAM there's a jumper. I don't think you can see it too well, but you'll see it if you actually have one of these and you have to reset the password. So what you're going to do is take that jumper and place it over there to reset the password for this computer so you can actually install the OS if you have to pull the hard drive out and do other stuff with it, like run the diagnostics. So yeah, that is how you do it. And since many people seem to be having that issue, it's when you get into it, you have to type some commands. There's a tutorial on how to do it with an Octane too. Go look it up. And unlike the Octane, you don't have to wait several minutes for it to turn on once you switch the jumper. Now I'm going to connect this thing, put the thing back in the case, power the thing up, and show you what. Now that I've hooked up the computer, let me turn it on. I've just turned on the power. Everything's been hooked up, and now I'm going to show you it. First off, the monitor comes on, but there's no video until the BIOS pops up, or the firmware, because this isn't a PC, this is a workstation, and it doesn't use a BIOS, as you'll see. As you can see, it says welcome to O2, starting up the system. If you hit stop for maintenance, you get the menu, which is basically like going into a BIOS menu. There's start system, install system software, run diagnostics, recover system, enter command monitor, or select keyboard layout. You can do any of these, but start system obviously starts to install system software. If you have a partition on the hard drive, it lets you install from the CD. Run diagnostics lets you run tests on the system to be sure like the RAM's working fine. Recover system lets you recover it from a backup, like if you use this in a business. Enter command monitor lets you go into the command line and type stuff in. I'm going to do that just to type in the hardware of this thing. So, like I said here, this is a 174 megahertz r10k with 1 megabyte of cache, 120 megabytes of RAM, and a SGI hard drive and CD drive. Yes, the scene uses SGI like all old workstations. And now I'm going back into the boot menu, and I'm going to choose Start System to boot up IRIX. As you can see, IRIX 6.5.15 is on this computer. I could have installed 6.5.23 or 6.5.30, but those have issues. Well, not 22, but 6.5.30 does on the O2, so you shouldn't really use it, especially with video capture, because somebody said that it has an issue with cache or buffer. I keep getting some buffer error message when I try to do video capture, but that's another story. I've tried posting on Neko-chan forums, but I haven't really gotten much help yet, but so yeah. The thing has booted up. As you can see, the computer got named Iris. I don't know how to rename it, because I'm going to be honest, I'm a noob with IRIX and Unix in general, so I don't know that much about it, but if anyone can, I would have renamed it, but I don't even know. I'm just... Anyways, I'm going to log in under the username that I created in the setup wizard. I didn't lock the computer down with the password because I don't intend to use it on the internet. And now, I'm at the main menu of the computer. Well, not main menu, but desktop. Over here, it's basically X Window System. And I can load up programs. Why is it glitching like that? And I already have some interesting programs on here too, such as Soft Windows 95. Now, there it's working. So I'm going to open up Icon Catalog, Applications, and show first soft Windows 95. Now this computer came with a bunch of applications on IRIX, and there are also some others you can find on the internet, some commercial, some free, like Nego-chan and SGI's freeware, but I haven't really gotten the internet working on this thing. For some reason, it doesn't work that well. I haven't gotten it to work. But soft Windows 95 is basically like Virtual PC for non-x86 platforms, and it had many versions for other Unixes and architectures. For example, there were versions for, as far as I know, Sun and HPUX, so it wasn't just on SGI, and it obviously had a Mac version. And from what I heard, the company who made this even programmed it for NT4 non-x86 to run x86 programs for 16-bit. This is mostly designed for 95 and DOS. I haven't gotten NT4 working on this yet. I'm going to try to, but it'll probably run slow because this thing's using a custom driver similar to how Virtual PC has its VM extensions. And soft Windows 95 does come with its own Windows 95 stuff. And it can do everything 95 can do. You can go to Programs, open up your other stuff. It comes with PowerPoint Viewer, Word Viewer, NetMeeting, Internet Explorer, Stuff Expander, because, you know, for compatibility with Macs and stuff, and an outdated version of Acrobat Reader. And of course, you can play all your favorite games, such as Minesweeper. The emulation isn't that fast, because after all, this was designed for workstations running under an older CPU, but it does run pretty well when you consider the hardware it's on, but it's just not as fast as an actual 95 machine. So, I mean, even my Pentium 120 feels slightly faster. Of course, this is running with not much RAM, as you can see, it's only running with 16 megabytes of RAM. I can set it to 32 and set the video memory higher, but this thing only has 128 megabytes of RAM. So yeah, I'm going to shut down. Well, actually, I'm going to restart it in MS-DOS mode, because this can also run DOS programs. Jeez, that was loud. Just to show it can run DOS programs, I'm going to go into it. See? Edit. That thing. I'm going to quit it now. You can also find other programs for it, such as Maya 6.5. Maya 6.5, the last IRIX version they ever made. It works on the O2, and probably also later SGI workstations, such as the Tesro. There's also Blender for it, but I haven't gotten to it yet because, like I said, this thing doesn't have internet access. I've tried to get on the internet, but I'll just throw up errors. If somebody can help me with this, please do. Anyways, it's all up and running really slow. Maybe I'll need more RAM to make this run faster, because this thing, like I said, only has 120 megabytes of RAM, and that's really limiting what I can do with this thing. The only problem is, like I said earlier, RAM is extremely expensive for this. I mean, you'll pay like $80 for 2 sticks of 64 for 128 total, and 64 megabyte RAM is $50. So, yeah. And 256 megabytes of RAM is $200. I'm not making this up. $200. Now, I thought I'd show you some demos. This thing came with a lot of demos because to try to show off this amazing power of the SGI 02, I'm going to show off Doom first. As you can tell, it's Doom. There's no music, sadly, because this thing used MIDI music and they didn't want to put a synthesizer in it, but it does play 60 FPS, well, 30 FPS, because Doom runs at 30 FPS, full 30 FPS Doom. And if you want, I can open up another demo just to show it. Just so while walking around, I'm going to open up this button fly demo. Look how it can do both at once. Of course, it starts to lag because, like I said, this thing kind of has a slower CPU, and this thing isn't top of the line nowadays, but in 1996 this was pretty impressive. Alright, I think I'm loading way too many demos, but let me make this one bigger. As you can see, it's running pretty well with only one window. Of course, if you open more, it starts to slow down as usual, but still pretty impressive for its time. Keep in mind, this company made the N64 hardware pretty much. MIPS processor, SGI based. There are a bunch of demos too, such as Flight. This is basically a flight simulator game in one of the first online games. It's called SGI Flight Simulator, and there's a whole screen of text because, you know, this was designed for older workstations, but this can do textures and fog, and it's really easy to control. Just move the mouse around. I'm gonna pick a Cessna 150 and this can render it with textures. Now, it's not real advanced, but keep in mind this was made who knows how long ago. This was really old stuff, and it's actually doing this in real time. And if I move the mouse around, I'm using an optical mouse. I can fly my plane around. Let me try this again. What button changes camera? There's also this view too, where it lets you see it from a tower, kind of like how Microsoft Flight Simulator used to do it. And another demo is Cycles, which is basically Tron's light cycles. And it can do network. Now, of course, nobody plays this game because, and I don't have any SGI. Yeah. There are other demos on this thing too, but like this. There are other demos on this thing too, such as a demo which shows off a texture cube, and a few demos that even make use of Netscape. For example, I'm going to open up Buttonfly again just to show you. And by the way, did I mention this thing used OpenGL? Alright, so I can't get on the internet, but I can open this demo up. This demo is basically one where you can alter the stuff of this room. Keep in mind, this isn't a web browser. This was long before HTML5. There's also a Battlezone type game, which runs at 60 FPS, and can be played over the network if you have more than one SGI, but I know of no way to play this over online. And of course I'm playing by myself because I have no other SGIs. I'm gonna quit this now, and I'm gonna turn off the system.